So great to have you all here. Thanks so much for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. It's what makes Wendell and I show up every morning to do that. Just your guys' feedback, your willingness to share some of your questions and thoughts with us. And hey, jump on some of our socials. That school app is a great way for you to interact with Wendell and I. Wendell, I don't know if you know this, but I'm beefing that little Agents of Recovery classroom like up significantly. So listeners, jump on the show notes. You'll see every link that we have to jump on there and have you guys become part of the school program. It's a great way to get in touch with Wendell and I, and make some connections with people that are looking for that starting line of recovery. Um, Wendell, I think I've told you this before, but the Agents of Recovery podcast has never had a formal guest. It's always just relied off the talent, I guess, of the people behind the mics in studio. And today we have our very first, Drew. You are our very first Agents of Recovery guest. So consider
Woo!
yourself, man, the king of the castle here today.
Mm.
Wendell, you have significant connections with Drew and some of the stuff you guys are doing. We talk about him a lot, which is why I'm glad you're here. I'll have you, Wendell, introduce Drew, our guest here today, and we'll kick this thing off by putting him in the hot seat.
Well, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to introduce him, but honestly, the program that he has started with Husband Material has been something that's been life changing for me. It really has. It literally has changed my life. It's changed my trajectory. It's changed the way I think, the way that I look at myself, the way that I look at other people. And it's the thing that's made me actually go back and go back to school now, and got accepted in my master's program to go into clinical mental health because of Husband Material and because of the desire that I have to help other men to find programs like Drew's, and it's just the whole way that he looks at things, and it's out of curiosity rather than blame and shame and everything else. But Drew, I've loved getting to know Drew better. I've been to a couple of his retreats with Husband Material and an intensive, and got to know him even a little bit better there. And looking forward to one more that we're going to go to here in Hawaii in a couple months.
Let's
So
go.
yeah,
Officially
excited.
jealous.
Yeah, excited to join him there. But in fact, Drew's probably a little bit, you know, what I can't think of the word right now, but a little bit, tired from the retreat you just got back from. A little jet lag. That was the word I was looking for. I was going to say, because you barely got back yesterday, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's helped more men to really just kind of. I love he has a new book that's out as well called Outgrow Porn, and the idea of not necessarily running from our addictions, and just trying to learn from the stories, learn from the things that they teach, and learn what it's telling us about what needs are being not met in ourselves. And I love the way that he goes about things, and just like that we can outgrow this. For my entire life, I thought, no, I got to get rid of this. I've got to get rid of it. If I could just get rid of this one thing, then, everything would be different. Everything would be okay. But it's not about getting rid of it. It's about embracing it, moving towards it, and outgrowing it, and learning the lessons from it that you need. So,
Yeah.
but that's my
Excellent.
introduction.
Yeah, yeah. And Drew, you have been a part of the Addict Athlete podcast many years ago, and I've watched you kind of create this program with some folks that you've brought on board, and I just got to tell you, man, from a clinical standpoint, you're doing phenomenal work, and it is one of the most challenging addictions I think we face in the world of overcoming these adversities, and so. For you, brother, would you mind maybe just kicking this off by sharing a little bit about why this has become your pursuit and passion and career? Because I know that some of the listeners from Agents won't know like your background and why this is such a significant, I think, a career choice that you've taken because you've dedicated your life to helping individuals overcome this. And it's not an easy battle. And so, again, welcome to the Agents podcast. But share with us, brother, a little bit about you, how you got started, and we'll kick this thing off.
I was a boy who loved Jesus and hated porn, but I couldn't stop using it. And when I was 13, these two saviors came into my life: Christ and the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And they both promised to rescue me. And I really felt that need for an escape. I felt very trapped, isolated, alone. I would spend every day going home playing video games and looking at images of the types of girls and women that aroused me, and that was my way of surviving. Until in college, I got into a group where I was able to share my deepest, darkest secrets and discover that they didn't disqualify me from being loved, from being accepted. And it became such a passion for me to get more of that and then to give it to others that I started leading my own groups. And I was finding a lot of help through the spiritual practices that I was learning. And yet, even after getting a year of freedom from porn, I still relapsed.
Mm.
And I second guessed everything. And I thought, have I really grown at all? Have I really healed at all? Like, am I just fooling myself? And it was at that time that I started taking a deeper journey. As Eddie Caparucci says, the road to recovery goes through your childhood. And really the core of my fascination sexually was always a very specific fetish for braces and orthodontics. I never understood why. Like, what is that? I hated myself because of it, but I also like had this deep attachment to it. It was like magical for me. That was my porn. It was something anyone could find on Google Images. And so the whole accountability approach didn't really work for me. Frankly, it just made it a game that I wanted to try to win by going back to the old behavior. So after that relapse in 2014, I thought, I'm still fighting a battle against this thing that has power over me. And yet through discovering where this fascination came from, I found out it's not the adult part of me that goes back to porn. It's this little boy within me.
Right.
And I needed to get to know that little boy. And when I did, the amount of love and healing and power I experienced just multiplied. And I felt like porn was no longer magical. It was manageable. And that changed everything. And that was over 10 years ago. So I've been free from internet porn over 10 years now. And the reason why I'm doing this ministry of helping other guys get free is because porn is just the entry point into what's really going on underneath it in our souls. So being able to connect with guys like Wendell, even you, Blue, is so life-giving, and it's often exactly what we were missing. And the reason why addiction has so much power is because we're turning to it as a way of trying to regulate, of trying to help that little boy. And so the motto of my new book and the motto of Husband Material is heal the boy to free the man.
Yeah, man, there is significant traction in that statement alone, Drew. And even in deep therapy sessions that I have with clients and stuff, it always seems to turn back to the inner child. So much stuff that I think we go through. I don't think the normal kind of mainstream person who's trying to live a life just free from addiction and try to avoid trauma, they don't realize how much of this is picked up simply by the way we were raised. That first 6 years of life, 10 years of life, we go through so much. I don't think we give it enough credit, do we? I mean, Wendell, you and I have talked about this, that inner child. Maybe for you, Wendell, and then for you, Drew, like, why do you think we neglect that part of us as we reach adulthood? Why do you think that we kind of like try to keep that inner child at bay, not realizing that it's just screaming for attention? And Wendell, for you specifically, when you reintroduce yourself to that inner child, were you prepared for what you found?
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. I think a lot of times we put down that inner child and we put him away because we think it's childish, right? Like, oh, I've outgrown that. I'm too, I'm to a point where like, oh, those are things that I can't worry about anymore. It's all these expectations that we put upon ourselves and we allow other people to put upon us that say, hey, this is how you do. You have to grow up, right? And I think also we try to minimize things. Try to say, oh, well, it wasn't like overt, abuse or anything else like this. And we don't realize how much pain we were actually in as children and the things that we've gone through. And it may have just been that our parents weren't able to give us the attention that we needed, right? And so to be able to make space for that without assigning blame and everything else to the way we were brought up, but to be able to recognize that, hey, there is something to this. There is this age, like Drew was talking about, where you know this inner child inside of me, he didn't get exactly what he needed. It wasn't enough. He felt not seen. He felt, my story, for example, I had 4 older brothers and 2 younger sisters, right? And so there was a lot of moving parts. And I always felt like, oh, well, I can't be the problem. I can't be the burden because I saw how that affected my mom. Right. And my dad was super busy and with his, church responsibilities and work and everything else, I was kind of the left out child. And so to be able to go back now with the tools that Drew has given me, to be able to sit with that child and to do inner child work. And I love the older brother coaching as well, where he can go and I can, as an adult self, I can sit with my inner child, right? I can sit with that
Mhm.
boy and say, hey, what are you feeling? What are you noticing? Like, what do you need right now? And it's been, to be able to show that compassion for that boy and not to be able to say, and not to say, oh, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. And, to kind of dismiss that.
Yeah.
And some of the most common childhood experiences for anyone who struggles with porn include being introduced to it at an early age. Like when you think back to when's the first time you encountered pornography? And for almost every man I talked to, it was 13 or under. Now,
Yeah.
it could be older than that, but usually this is a really important point because when I ask these same guys, how much of it do you believe is your fault? They'll say, oh, it's almost all my fault. It's all my fault. I'm the one who chose it. I wanted it.
Yeah.
No, porn hunted for you. Porn searched for you. Porn preyed upon you and exploited you from a young age. It was a sexual abuser.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what victims of childhood of sexual abuse will say. I wanted it. I chose it. I liked it. I found myself aroused by it, but that doesn't make it your fault.
Right.
But that's one of the huge important factors is early exposure, as well as a glaring lack of sex education.
Indeed.
When you ask guys,
Yeah.
What was the conversation around sex in your home? Well, usually there wasn't one. And if there was, it was rigid and disengaged, meaning the rules were more important than the relationships.
Mhm.
And most of the time we just avoided it or ignored it, which then left the door open for porn and other toxic influences to become that sex education. And then as a result of the silence and the moralistic purity culture that many of us grew up in, we have shame around it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that toxic shame becomes infected over the years, over the decades.
Mhm.
So I think even if you think to yourself, well, I had a pretty good childhood, even just those 3 factors are probably still present. And that's what we have to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing that I've learned about your program and just listening to what Windows, process with me after some of the retreats and whatnot, is that the therapeutic modality of internal family systems is a incredible doorway into this. And Drew, I love the fact that you're utilizing that. I mean, for obvious reasons, but for listeners, they may not understand that the power and the concept of what it is. Share with the listeners why that modality works so well and
Yeah.
kind of like, you know, how it does. It gets you to a spot where you can start recognizing these patterns because now
Mhm.
you're starting to kind of zero in on maybe some of the causality of it. Like
Mm.
why internal family systems as kind of like the foundation for this approach.
I'm so glad you brought that up because literally yesterday and the day before, internal family systems saved my life.
Mm,
Internally speaking, um, I was triggered. I was struggling. I felt so hurt. I could barely function. And internal family systems was exactly what I needed. And I got on the phone with a friend who was using that approach with me. I cried 3 times. I'm still like affected by it all, and I have more calm in my body. I have more patience. I have more hope. I have what I needed to get through it.
brilliant.
So here's what that means for anybody who doesn't have familiarity with it. Just like we have an external family that may include a mom, a dad, siblings, we also have an internal family. The movie Inside Out captures this perfectly.
Brilliant.
Emotions like fear, sadness, joy. We also have sexual arousal. That's a part of us. It's a part of our internal family. But just like in an external family, in an internal family, not all the children are loved the same way. And
Right.
sometimes they feel hurt, excluded. Sometimes they're shamed. Sometimes we have favorites. For example, maybe I have a favorite part of me, the good Christian boy might be like the favorite child. And then the part of me that wants to go to porn or wants to masturbate might be like the unwanted one in the family. So internal family systems is about getting to know all these different parts within you that are in your internal family, and then you as the leader of that family get to know each one and connect with each one and find out that just like in any family, there are no bad kids.
Right.
Um, there are just good kids in bad roles or in bad situations. You know, if you're a parent, you know this. Like, it's not the kid that's the problem. There's something deeper going on, and rather than just trying to fix or control or correct, we need to come close and find out what does this person really need. And so we can do that with our emotions. We could do that with our sexual thoughts and feelings. And at the very beginning of Wendell's introduction, he said, we don't need to just get rid of it. We need to embrace it. That's not saying we need to embrace porn. That's saying I need to embrace the little boy in me that learned to use porn and still wants it.
Jeez.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you, Wendell, having now experienced this, I mean, you champion internal family systems so much so that I'm like, oh yeah, that is a really powerful modality because I don't use it as much. How has it kind of like allowed you to start making these connections and kind of healing from some of the stuff that you didn't realize was kind of weighing you down?
For me, there's something that resonates with internal family systems because for so long I felt like it was an all or nothing type thing, right? Like I
Mhm.
had to, it was very much black or white, right? So I was my own beliefs and my own burdens and things that I believed were like, oh well, I can't like if I'm not 100% right, like free from porn, if there's even that little slip, if there's that, then I got to throw it all out. I got to take it and start all over again, right? And this idea that two things could exist at the same time, that I could, have this desire to look at porn and then also this desire to be a good person, and that it didn't mean that I was a porn addict, right? But I was a good person, and then I had this part of me that liked that was searching for something. And so it went to porn because that was, something that was a protector, right? It was trying to protect me. It was a firefighter. It was trying to do these things because it knew that I was in pain. It knew I was hurting, and it knew that it didn't want me to be in pain and to hurt. And so because of that, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to come in here and I have one job, and that's to get you out of pain. It's to make you feel like you're not suffering, you're not alone right now. And so the idea that we can have these different parts of us and that there aren't bad parts, but there are parts that are stuck in a bad role that, it's going to this. And if I can understand that mentally up here, that I can understand that there are these parts and that they're serving a good purpose, then I can be like, oh, well, let's slow back. Let's go back. Let's be curious about what they're trying to, what purpose they're trying to serve. And then, it's freed up so much of that shame part that you talked about, Drew, that
Right.
toxic shame. And especially
Yeah.
growing up in a religious background. And it was like, oh, because my religious leaders, they told me, hey, pray more, read the scriptures more, attend more church, do all these things. And if you do that, then you won't have this desire to act out or to go to porn, right? And that's going to fix you. But when it didn't fix me, then instead of it being like, oh, that wasn't the right answer, it went to be like, it's me, I'm the problem, right? Just like you said, Drew, it was like, it's me, I'm the problem, and I can't be fixed. And so now with this idea and this perspective of IFS, it's like, no, I'm not the problem, right? It's a part of me, right? But I don't identify as that addict anymore. And that's what I love also with Addict Athlete is like Addict Athlete, it's like we're transitioning from that idea that like says, oh, we are an addict to something of greater value, right? And to kind of like, it's not who we are. It's a part of us, but it's not who we are. It's not who our identity is.
Yeah. And you can get some great books and resources and podcasts out there about internal family systems and parts work, which might be another word for it. But the only resource I'm aware of that really applies it to sexual struggles and porn is Outgrow Porn. So that's the value of the book. It takes this approach and then applies it to this situation. For example, somebody might be saying, well, are you saying that porn is good? Are you saying that like, that my addiction is not bad? No, what I'm saying is that your sexuality is good.
Yeah.
That God created it. And there are no negative emotions. Each one is trying to meet a legitimate need. And so we can learn to bless and process what's happening inside of us instead of cursing and attacking or avoiding what's happening inside of us. That changes everything. And so instead of battling myself, I'm befriending myself. There's still a battle, but it's not against me. It's against evil, and that involves learning how to love and be loved instead of this approach based on fear and shame.
Yeah. But see, and that's where I think your program, Drew, has created such significant growth in individuals pursuing that healing. Because the question I have for both of you, Wendell and Drew, and this may be very hard for both of you guys to answer this, the residual effect, the wave, if you will. You grow, you heal. I'm curious about the stakeholders in your life, the people that are watching this, that are seeing this. They have to see not only like growth and change, but they feel something too. Your wife, your family, you begin to hold yourself. Wendell, I've watched you grow so significantly over the last 2 years. More so than I think you could have ever done in anything else that you've done, simply because like you've allowed Drew's program to like infiltrate some of those corners that you thought we had covered. But for you, Drew, or for you, Wendell, first, your family, your wife, like they see this. Is it instantaneous? Is it over time? What do they notice? What do they say to you? Does that make sense? Because like you do so much inner work for yourself and by yourself, but listeners, the residual effect is you'll notice, you'll see a change. And I'm curious, Wendell, what is that change? What does the family see when they see you take your place?
I love that because I've had conversations with my kids that I never would have had otherwise, right? I've been able to approach them, and this has given me a framework to really um, take away the power that shame held over me, right? I had this shame for so long that just like, like I don't deserve love. I don't deserve to be, somebody they look up to. I don't deserve this, right? And that all of my sexual struggles like made it so that I wasn't like good enough to deserve those things. I was disqualified, I think is the right word, from that. And now I've been able to recognize that, hey, you know what? In the same way that I can see that, my parents didn't have all the answers and didn't give me everything I needed, that I didn't give my kids everything they needed as well, that I
Mm,
wasn't there for them as much. And so that's allowed me to go to them and to speak with each one of them in such an honest tone, in a way that I've been able to be vulnerable with them. And I love how Drew talks about with husband material that to be vulnerable means to be woundable, right? And so I'm putting
yeah.
myself out there and I'm saying, hey, you guys, I didn't do everything I could have done or I should have done, honestly. And I'm sorry for that, and I just, feel like, going to them in that way has changed my relationship with my kids, right? It's changed that relationship. And it was Janice, my wife, who said, hey, you know what, you need to go deeper. And we weren't married at this time. And the gift that she gave me to say, hey, we're probably not going to work out, but I love you enough. I see you, I see who you are enough that you need to go deeper. You need more help, which is what led me to reach out and to find husband material and to go deeper and to go through their program. And now to be able to help other men go through the program as well and to lead some triads and do those things. And it's just, yeah, I mean, it's something we celebrate, and I love to be able to celebrate that. The shame doesn't now, I mean, there's shame pops its head in every once in a while and just to check in on me to make sure, hey, are you sure you don't want to go back into that shame mode, but it's like it doesn't have the power it had on me anymore. I can talk about this. I can share things on Facebook. With random people in the mall, they start talking to me about, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I went to the husband material retreat. Well, what's that about? I'm like, oh, well, it's about men and mental health and outgrowing pornography usage. And this lady opens up to me and she starts talking to me about her son and her abuse and all these other things. And I'm like, wait, you can talk about this stuff? Because for so long you couldn't. And so it's got this effect where everybody around me, it makes it so that it's not shameful to talk about. We're okay talking about our children or our relatives who struggle with alcohol abuse or with other addictions, right? But for some reason, pornography and porn has this taboo part about it. And so it makes it that much more shameful. And that's, why it's a lot harder to talk about. And so it's taken away a lot of that, and it's allowed me to be authentic to myself, authentic to that core person. And it's just given me so much more curiosity about everything else. And why do we say we have to do this, or why do we say we can't talk about pornography, right? Why? Who's the master behind that who says, oh, we can't talk about that, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so it's taken away a lot of that power that it held over me. And it's made my relationship so much more authentic, so much more real. We can talk about these things. I Drew, you mentioned about like first introduction to pornography and the fact that we can't like, just it's usually at a young age, right? And then not having that sex education. And that's one of the things I loved so much in the last retreat that we went to is Doug, Carpenter, and he had this class that was talking about sex education. And you're able to ask, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we had guys ranging from probably 20 to 70, 80,
Mhm.
somewhere in that range, sitting in a room together. And he had us write down questions on a card and put them in the thing so we could be anonymous, right? And you have some of these questions that like, I'm like, I never thought of that. I didn't know that, right? And being able to feel safe enough to ask those questions, you know, and to be able to have answers to those that you feel like, oh, I mean, Blue, both of us, we're about 2 weeks apart in age. We're 50,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
magical 50. Um,
Mhm.
Drew's a little younger than us,
Oh, man.
but I know, but it's to be able to have that freedom, that safety to ask these questions and to do these things. And I know, Drew, you have a good friend, and he has a great book Sam Jolman, the
Mhm.
sex talk you never got. And that one
Mhm.
also was just a life-changing one to be able to understand some of those questions and I love what you said, talking about sex, these desires that we have for intimacy, for, sexual things. God gave us those desires. They're not bad, right? And for a long time, my shame said, no, those desires are bad. And so there's so many
Yeah.
just shifts that I've been able to make that have just
Mhm.
made my mind turn into that little emoji where the brain's like exploding. That's how I feel right now. So
Yeah. One of the biggest mind-blowing shifts for me has been understanding the difference between sexual desire and sexual arousal. I think
Yeah,
that's
yep.
one maybe we should talk about.
do.
Sexual arousal is an automatic physical reaction. It's just your body responding to stimuli. Encountering pornography will create sexual arousal, no matter what it is. Having a sexual experience at a young age can burn into your brain and it will be very arousing, no matter who does it. It doesn't mean you wanted it. It doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean that's who you are. It's just the body doing what God designed it to do, to react strongly to stimulation, especially some of those more sensitive, erotic areas. Sexual desire is not based on a physical experience, it's based on the emotional connection. It's not an automatic body reaction, it's what your heart truly longs for and desires, the affection, the intimacy, the connection that we were created for. And so sexual arousal is just the surface level, sexual desire is at the soul level. Here's a huge reason why this matters. Porn may arouse me, but it's not what I desire. It's not my true desire. It
Very
is
big.
connected to deeper desires and it symbolizes the things I desire. But in order to get free, I don't have to try to kill my desires. I need to discover them. I need to find out how to satisfy them so that I don't need the sexual arousal and it loses its power. So on the other hand, let's say you're married and you're working through this with your spouse, I can say to my spouse, "Hey, even if I'm not always aroused by you, you are the one I desire."
Good
And
grief. Yeah.
yeah,
Good grief.
isn't that helpful?
Yeah, very much so. I have that conversation almost on a weekly basis in couples counseling and therapy. And I think that we forget that. We negate the fact that they're choosing each other when it seems like this distraction is what the choice is kind of being leaned towards. And I think listener, that's a powerful thing Drew said. You come into that understanding, Drew, that's significant in a lot of different ways because, again, it takes the shame out of the addiction and says there's a more excellent way to pursue this. And as you teach this and you have these aha moments, do they feel it? Do they see like, oh my gosh, this is something I need to do more conversating about, more talk about, more, like interactions with my partner, my spouse, the person I've chosen,
Yeah.
instead of what usually happens, which is, looking at it solely as that desire, that pursuit, that want, when
Yeah.
really it's like, I'm choosing you. This whole other thing, I don't know where it's coming from. I think so many relationships I've seen dissolve because of that one factor, that inability to understand that principle. Um, that's something that you didn't say in your podcast with me. This is something that you've come to
Yeah.
understand. Like
This is something I
Yeah.
learned from Dr. Doug Carpenter, who has had a huge influence on me and on the book. And I mean, this is part of that sex education that was missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many of us are still novice to this factor? Is it simply because it's hard to talk about? Is it we don't know what question to ask? We don't know who to ask? Is that part of this kerfuffle that we've got ourselves into?
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. the silence, the shame, the lack of resources, the lack of safety in our communities, families, churches, even in recovery groups, it's not always safe to
Mm.
share.
No.
Yeah.
You know, it's focused on that surface level rather than the soul level. And then I think there are also some ways in which women are now getting some more validation, especially for stories of being abused or assaulted. Like, hey, just because your body was turned on by it doesn't mean that it was okay. And the exact same thing is true for men.
Mhm.
When it comes to porn, addiction, affairs, acting out, like for so many of us, porn was a way to try to make sense of sexual experiences we had as little kids. And so
Hmm.
I think part of what we have to do is just validate, like, it's not your fault. And it doesn't say anything about who you are. If a man did something to you sexually and your body responded, like, of course it did.
Right.
And it doesn't mean anything about your identity. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you.
Mm.
You know?
So,
And so
Drew, I
yeah.
think the hard part that I'm seeing with this, and you brought up something very significant with that, is that there's many times I'm in here and the wife will say to the husband, it's not the fact that you've seen it, that you view it, it's the fact that you've lied to me.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the ones that's really hard for them to wrap their heads around. Like, so you want me to just tell you when this happens? And I'll tell you, as clear as day, they will still double, quadruple down on trying to hide it. Why is the lie much more difficult than the action? Like, what have you noticed? What have you heard about that? Because I
Mhm.
hear that almost daily. It's the lie, it's not the action.
Right. Yeah. Research has shown that it's not any specific sexual activity that does the most damage to a partner, a spouse. It's the hiding, the lying, the deception that hurts the most, because that's the foundation of the relationship.
There it is.
When trust is broken, like, there is no safety. So this is very, very difficult to navigate. Guys will think, well, I need to hide because I don't want to hurt her. Well, the truth is, by withholding reality, you are hurting her even more. Now, there needs to be support and really trauma-informed care for both
Right.
people in the relationship.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of times what happens is the man who's struggling with porn will be seen as the one with the problem, so he gets all the resources, the community, the professional help, and there are way more resources. In my book's an example. And of course, women struggle with porn too, but in the traditional, typical situation where the spouse is a woman who's being sexually betrayed, it's almost like she gets hit by a bus of discovering this secret sexual life, and then she's expected to pick herself up and care for the bus driver.
Yeah.
Like,
You wrap your
you know,
head around that.
yeah. So we need to champion and emphasize the need for equal support for both people, rather than what typically happens is one person is surrounded with opportunities to heal, and the other one is told, well, you just need to forgive him. You need to give him sex so that he doesn't act out. Some of these horrible messages that betrayed partners get told in churches, and sometimes even in recovery spaces, they're like, well, what's your part to play in this? You did not have a part to play in getting hit by a bus.
No.
It's a situation where both people need emergency help, and then the relationship has to heal. So this is maybe a helpful framework to think about when porn has devastated a marriage, there are 3 healings that need to take place. The person who has been betrayed, the person who has done the betrayal, and then the relationship itself. All 3
Mhm.
need to heal. And for any one who's in that situation, part of the reality there is that only 1/3 of that is really fully within your own ability to control. And control is a
So
strong
true.
word. We
Mhm.
cannot do all 3 just on our own.
Yeah.
So it's a posture of needing to do the work and surrender the result to God.
So Wendell and I both know of an individual that we care deeply for. And he'll listen to this, and we won't call him out by name, but you know who you are. He's gotten to the point where he is so on the line of, this is just who I am then. This pornography is part of my life. My wife knows, I know, God knows, it's my burden to bear. Where do we start, Drew and Wendell, in starting to peel back that falsehood of you are the addiction again, and get into the thick of things? The hard part, I think, with this young man is that he looks at it like, why have I done this? I've done this during severe trauma. This man's lost significant things in his life, like relationships, people, um, family. And he's like, maybe this is just who I am. When he knows deeper down that there's something, powerful waiting to rise to the occasion of life. When you know who I'm talking about, it's
Yeah.
so hard, Drew, when so many of these young men, they begin to think like, this is my burden to bear, my cross to carry. I'll deal with it when I'm at the foot of the master. And I'm thinking, brother, why put yourself through that turmoil? Where do you begin to like show them the reflection of what God sees in these men to rise to the occasion? Because my gosh, when you get to a situation where you feel like this is life, this is my burden to bear, I can't imagine where you begin, because it's such a devastating feeling to just feel as though you're done when you haven't begun.
Yeah. I would start with just validating and normalizing those feelings as much as possible.
Brilliant.
He probably has really good reasons to feel that way. The resignation, the futility, the despair is enough to make freedom seem impossible and unbearable, especially if someone has spent years, maybe even decades, with the wrong approach.
Yeah.
Like Wendell talked about, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like fighting a frustrating, exhausting battle against yourself over and over again. Like, yeah, I would give up too. And maybe there's a part of this guy that is saying, just quit.
Oh yeah.
Like quit trying to quit. And maybe the core of that part and the gold in there that's good is, quit the old way.
Exactly.
Quit. Like, maybe this part is actually trying to help you and give you something good, which is giving up on what's not working.
Mhm.
And so maybe we can find something beautiful in there. And to use Jenna Riemersma's approach with her new book, Move Toward, it's really good. She would probably say something like, notice the part of you that just wants to believe this is your burden to bear and it's always going to be there. So you should just allow it. Just notice that within you and ask, what does this part want me to know? What is it really feeling? And where is it coming from? Why is that such an appealing option? And then finally, what does this part need? Maybe it needs rest. Maybe it needs relief. Maybe it needs reassurance, or any of the I think the core needs are the attachment needs of being treasured, cherished, supported, accepted, to be
Jeez.
delighted in, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so,
Chosen is one
yeah,
for me too. Yeah.
yes, right?
To be chosen.
Yeah. And maybe this despair or this hopelessness is trying in some way to get to a point where he can just be loved
Yeah.
exactly as he is. Maybe.
Think
Well,
nail
and
on
I
the
can
head, huh, Wendell?
Yeah. Oh, 100%, because I was in that situation. I was married for 25 years, and I was that person who resigned myself to saying, "You know what? This is my burden. This is what it's gonna be." I'd heard all the advice. I'd been given, the different answers, from religious leaders and from other, books and everything else, and like, bounce your eyes, do these things, do all these things to trigger or to avoid the triggers, right? And to do the things and really attack it at an angle of like all of the other things and not the core, you know? And so for me, that was it, right? It goes back to I love how on your book, you have the pacifier there, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's what it's about. I was using this as a pacifier. It takes me back to my childhood. And until I went to truly understand what I was needing, what those core needs were that you were talking about, Drew, to be chosen, to be understood, to be cherished, right?
Yeah.
And I'd resigned myself that was never going to happen. And so when you said, Drew, like, oh my gosh, let's, even notice like, okay, so you know how it doesn't work now. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that gives you, that gave me chills because that was it, right? I finally found a way that it does work for me now.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's why I said, it's been life changing for me because because it is. I mean, it's my passion. It's everything I want to do. I want to understand more. I want to learn more. I want to be a part of it because it's meant so much to me because for, 48 years of my life, I didn't know how. I didn't have these tools. And so now that I finally got these tools, it's like, ooh, I'm excited to see what I can build and see to
Yeah.
see who I can help with these tools, right?
Love it.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer to the final Wendell. And Drew, I know it's working for Wendell. Without getting too in depth, he called me the other day in a little bit of crisis. Um, and all I did is answer the phone because he had everything all worked out. And I'm like, good to talk to you, Wendell. And he had the experience and he
Yeah.
endured it well. And I'm thinking, that's not who this guy was a few years ago when I met him. So I know
No.
for a fact that what you're doing, man, is working. And it was cool being able to know you previously just because of the context we've made, but to see your work in action, I am a firm believer in it, Drew. And so I really want to make sure that we spend maybe the last amount of time telling the listeners about husband material because I'm going to champion it for the rest of my days because I see the work and the passion in Wendell and just the longevity of what you've created here with some pretty amazing people. Tell the listeners a little bit about husband material, both your version, Drew, you're creating, and Wendell, your ability to be a active participant in it.
Thank you so much, Blue. Husband Material is a movement of Christian men changing our brains, healing our hearts, and saving our relationships through finding lasting freedom from porn and other unwanted behaviors. You can join our community, which is free, private, and confidential at husbandmaterial.com. So we have weekly podcasts. We have free conferences online too. And the next one will be coming up in July. It's called HMA in a Day. HMA stands for Husband Material Academy. And we basically take you through the whole program in a compressed version for free in a single day. And
Wow.
we'll be doing that in July. So that's a great opportunity to really gain momentum in a short amount of time.
Excellent. And listeners, all of Drew's contact information, the book, tell us a bit about the book too.
Right. So the book is Husband Material Academy in book form with a lot more research and stories and and it contains tools with every chapter. Wendell was talking about the tools to be able to do this work increasingly on your own or with a friend, so that you don't necessarily always need to do inner child work with a counselor or a therapist, but you can learn to be the older brother or the safe, loving adult that you never had. And that's Outgrow Porn. Find lasting freedom without fighting an exhausting battle. You can get it at outgrowporn.com.
Yeah. Wendell gave me a copy of it, and I have it here, and I reference it quite often. And Wendell, you yourself, brother, when I first met you, had come with a significant, I would say, resume of being in the realms and in the know, so to speak, with some church projects and meetings and things. But I saw you take off when you started to invest yourself in HMA. So tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, as someone who's used it as a mechanism to get to this place you're at now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I honestly am tearing up now because it's changed everything about who I am. I had a lot of head knowledge, right? I'd done a lot of research. I'd done a lot of, I'd attended 12-step groups, and I'd bought the books and listened to podcasts and done all those things, right? And to try to stop the behaviors, and focusing on that. That was what my focus was on. And it wasn't until I really joined Husband Material and found in there a community, a safe place, which is what it is. It's the most amazing safe place where you say your deepest, darkest things, and people don't run out of the room screaming, right? They sit there with you. They sit in the dirt because they understand where you're coming from. And to have somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one who ever felt that way.
Yeah.
And from day one in the academy, like it's, you talked, Drew, about that connection and that just that feeling of like of these desires, that we have, and we have these desires for connection. And porn isolates you. It says you can't talk about this. You can't have these connections. You can't develop these connections. And we all have this deep emotional connection to be connected, or desire to be connected with other men as well, right? And you find that in the triad groups, in the communities, in the things when you join Husband Material Academy. And it's something that, like, it's changed everything about me. It's given me a framework to recognize that it's a part of me. Yeah. But it's trying to service and trying to make me feel safe, to feel seen, to be heard. And I love Drew's book. I love, there's a story in the end of it, an analogy, or like, analogy is not the right word, but there's a story about a monster and a mouse at the end of the book. And if you get it for no other reason, that one really resonates because it just talks about this, we can't fight this. It's not about fighting it. It's not about getting bigger, scarier, stronger. It's not about that. It's about understanding what led us to these things. And I love too, Drew, what your recommendation for that man who's been struggling is, the first thing to do is just to say, man, that makes sense. You're not broken. That doesn't mean you are a terrible person or everything else. It's like,
Beautiful.
man, it just makes sense. And to finally have somebody say, oh my gosh, you're suffering. I'm so sorry. And to feel that for you, instead of saying, oh, well, just change this or just change this and trying to fix you, somebody who allows you to sit there and be with yourself and to allow yourself to heal. It's changed my life. And it's, so much, like I mentioned earlier, that's what I'm going to school for now. I never thought in a million years I'd go back to school. I'm 50 years old here and just got accepted and start next month. So here we go. It's a ride.
Welcome to the tribe, brother. Yeah. Drew, again, man, I just appreciate you carving out some time. You're busy. You got a family of your own. I think last time I spoke to you on the podcast, you were just welcoming that little new one into your family. And so, yeah, appreciate the work that you're doing, man. You're doing God's work. And I think, gentlemen and ladies out there who's listening, we have a very strong lady listenership on the Agents of Recovery. Check out the resources that will be in the description in the show notes, because I'm a firm believer that if you'll take that step and reach out for some help and some assistance, you don't have to do this alone. None of us finish this job alone. Let's get some teammates behind you, and invest the time. And I think that's what it really is. is time. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort and make some sacrifice, you're going to be able to overcome this. The only reason I would say that almost as a guarantee is because I've seen it happen in Wendell's life. I've watched Drew build this program. I'm a firm believer in it, and I think that it's a very underserved population, and the answers are right here. HMA and what Drew's done with the people that he's brought on board, they do excellent work. So Drew, you have my blessing, man, 100%. Did you did back then? You do even more so now because you brought a man like Wendell to the forefront to take his place, and I think that's kind of it, right? As a final kind of thing. What's it feel like for you, Drew, when you see these men take their place in life, in fatherhood, in husband material? When they take their place, what does that say to you?
Tells me to keep going.
Absolutely.
Because when we get into this type of work, evil hates it and tries to do everything possible to convince us to give up or
Yep.
that there's no point. And so those stories tell me to keep going.
100%. Well said. I've seen it with my own eyes. When you're on the path to something beautiful, the adversary definitely wants to throw his wrench in it. So, listeners, you've been well fed. Please share this podcast with those who are struggling. If you yourself are, reach out to us. We'll get you in connections with the people and the places and the tools that you'll need to help overcome that adversity and to help you eventually become one of us, an agent of your recovery.
Yeah.